please do.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this interview with Dr. Jon Finn, the author of a new book called The Habit Mechanic, about how we can all use good habits to improve how we live our lives, both at home and at work. Dr. Finn was kind enough to send me this, a pre-release copy of his book. I found it a really engaging read, and there's loads and loads of exercises in here which made it personal to me and can make it personal to you. And this has actually led to me implementing some daily habits that I found very helpful. One change I've made, for example, I'm very much a planner, but actually I realized from reading the book that we all have innate energy levels that go up and down. And so you actually, when you're planning what to do in the day, you need to think about what tasks you're going to do at what times a day. So for example, if I need to write a report, I need to focus on doing that maybe in the morning when my energy levels are naturally higher. And I've got more things like just sort of planning for emails. I'd push those maybe to after lunch when I'm less focused. That's just one of the many great ideas you'll find in this book. I found that it's not one of those classic self-help books where it's very much one idea which just gets repeated in different ways every chapter. This one's chock full of useful tools and tips. So I do honestly think it's going to be really helpful to you, my viewers. And that's why I've asked Jon to come on the channel to talk about it a bit more. In particular, we've discussed in our prep for this, the fact that as actuaries, we all need to learn to study better. We've got to work hard and then we've got to do exams. And when we're doing work, we need to be really efficient because there's lots of stuff we can do and there's only so many hours in the day. And just looking at the Amazon as well, it looks like the sales figures this book's are going really well. So it's clearly a book which is going to be worth your time checking out. So let's talk to the author now. So welcome to my channel, Dr. Finn.
Hi, Paul. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Well, it's a real pleasure to talk to you, and thank you very much again for the book. I imagine a lot of my viewers might not have sort of come across you, so perhaps you could just take a while to just introduce yourself to the viewers.
Sure. Well, I'm now the author of the best-selling book, The Habit Mechanic, and I'm the founder of Tougher Minds. And I've worked in the fields of resilience, performance psychology, leadership for over 20 years, and I have 3 degrees in these areas connected to psychology, including a PhD. And I founded Tougher Minds because I wanted to help people to be at their best. That's my absolute mission. So that's a little bit about me. And we work a lot in the city of London in finance, insurance, banking, etc. But equally, we help people in professional sport, elite sport. That's actually my background. We work in education as well. So we really teach people how to do better in their lives and at work and in sport and as a parent and as someone who's sitting exams and developing themselves. So we teach real transferable skills that you can use throughout your life, and you can also use to help others to do better, whether that's your kids or your direct reports or the sports team you're coaching, or when people get to your position, Paul, helping others in their professions, So we've created this program where you can learn how to help yourself, but also you can use that same insight to help others to be at their best.
Excellent. And thanks again for providing me a draft copy of your book, The Habit Mechanic. I found it really fascinating, really useful. Perhaps you might like to just say a little about what the book covers and why you've written it.
Yeah, well, I'll hold up my copy. So I wrote this because over the last 20 years, I've been with my colleagues testing and refining ideas that help people to be at their best. And eventually we got to the point after 20 years, because this is 550 pages, it's 107,000 words, it's literally taken me 20 years to write it. We got to the point after 20 years where we can see that these approaches work across context, across different jobs. They just help human beings do better. So we wanted to put it out there into the world. And the book is structured, like I say, it's not like any self-help book I've seen before. This literally is a manual for life. It's a toolkit for success. It's something that you can keep using for the rest of your life. You don't read it once and put it on the shelf to collect dust. You leave it on your desk and you keep coming back to it. So the way it's structured is it starts by introducing why the world is challenging and why it's harder than ever to be at our best. It then shows you in very simple, but also through to very complex ways about how your brain works. So we always have very simple ways of explaining this. but we'll also show you the science as well. And then we show people how to start analysing their habits and developing what we call their habit mechanic intelligence, so that you can get a better understanding of which habits you have and which are helping you to be at your best, which are helping you to revise really well, maybe, for example, which is stopping you revising well and preparing for exams, or whatever it is. And then we show you how to start building more helpful habits. First of all, how to increase your motivation, then how to build better sleep, diet, and exercise habits, better stress management habits, better confidence habits, better performing under pressure habits, better productivity and focus habits, so that you can organize your day better and you can learn how to really focus and learn properly. And we show you how learning happens and how you can do it better. And once you understand how to be at your best more often, we then show you how to be what we call a chief habit mechanic, so that you can learn how to create cultures that help teams develop really good habits. And we take you step by step how to be we call a team power leader, and eventually a cultural architect. So there are over 30 tools in the book that help you to analyze yourself and also start building better habits. And again, they're not things that you use once, you keep going back to them again and again. So that's an overview of the book. I'd say it's more like 3 books in one. It's not really one book, it's lots of things put together. But the reason we decided to put it together as one book is because it makes a lot more sense when you can use the component parts together. But you don't have to read the book cover to cover to get value. You can just pick it up literally and turn to the section you're interested in. Straight away after a few minutes, you'll get some things to start doing and start working on. I think that's a fair description, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. It is very practical. So you don't just read it and then forget about it. You're literally starting to do little quizzes and think about yourself and creating sort of to-do lists or wish lists and things. So I definitely found it. I wasn't ever very passive reading it. I was constantly thinking about it and developing myself, and then actually putting things into place, which is the real test. Are you actually going beyond just reading it? And I definitely, like I say, I have implemented a number of things, and there's a number of really good tests in there which I've found, and I think a lot of actuaries and other professionals will immediately click and get the benefit from.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say this book is going to get you thinking about yourself in a way you've probably never thought about yourself before, but in a really helpful way, because we're just not designed to think of ourselves in the ways this book will make you think about yourself, because all our neural architecture is focused on the external world, really. So we've got to work a little bit harder in a structured way, using this guidance that we've developed and refined over the last 20 years to actually really deliberately look at ourselves and build up what we call our habit mechanic intelligence. So we see that time and again when people take these self-assessments, it does help them to think in a different way, but in a really helpful way.
I would warn the viewers, though, it does make you think about your smartphone in a different way. And I was going to wave it in front of people. I don't actually have it on me, which maybe is a triumph of Dr. Finn's book, that you realise that it's not always helping you, that amazingly powerful tool. It's also very good at distracting you and diverting you from what you really should be doing. So we talked about it a couple of times about professional exams. Lots of people watching this video will probably be doing professional exams. The actuarial ones, they're really tricky. They're hard exams and you've got to do it while you're working. So I wonder, perhaps you could give us some advice here about, how people can harness the learning superpower to really get through those actuarial exams.
Sure, yeah. So there are a number of specific chapters in the book that really relate to this, but I'll just dip into a couple of the core ideas. I think the first thing we need to work out is, what are we actually trying to learn? And where we often get it wrong with revision is we are getting good at practicing revising, not getting good at practicing what we need to do in an exam. So revision is about storing information. Exams are about retrieving information. So that's a really important point. But if we step back from that, in the book, we talk about the 10 intelligence factors. So gone are the days where we understand that you're either good at something or you're not good at something. We can see that learning is the human superpower. We are designed to learn. It's just that some things are more difficult for some people to learn than others. But if we understand the factors that can enhance our learning or block our learning, that's going to immediately help us to start getting more out of every minute that we actually spend focusing on the thing we're trying to learn. So they're the 10 intelligence factors, which I talk about in the book. I think it's really important if you're working all day and you're coming back to in the evening to do your revision, that you know why you're doing it. You can connect revising to your bigger long-term goals. And there's a tool in the book called the FAM Story Iceberg, which is a tool that's designed to help you to refine and create your long-term goals and connect them back to today. So we can work through that in the book, but one of the core things in that is the Y times 5 process. So you could quickly ask yourself that question: why are you doing the revision? You might say, well, I want to pass my exams. Well, why do you want to pass your exams? And you see, if you ask yourself why about 5 times, you get to quite a meaningful answer. So it's always good to be able to connect the short-term efforts you're making with your bigger, longer-term goals. And then we have to think about, when we're sitting there doing the revision, what are we actually practicing to do? And one of the stories I talk about in the book, which is in the Performing Under Pressure section, which is really about learning, is a story about King George VI, which is taken from the film The King's Speech, which you may have seen. And there's this whole narrative around the king, who's got a very bad stutter, preparing for a coronation speech. And he finds an expert to help him, a guy called Lionel Logue. And this expert helps him to practice preparing for that speech in a different way. And the way that I understand this is that what Lionel Logue's actually doing is helping the king to prepare in a much more, what I would call, functionally equivalent way. And that means it's actually getting the king to practice firing the same neural circuits in his brain when he's practicing as he will need to fire when he's actually giving that coronation speech. So they don't practice a speech in Lionel Logue's Harley Street office. They go to Westminster Abbey. They sit in the chair. Lionel Logue plays the role of the Archbishop of Canterbury. The timings are the same. He wears the same clothes he's going to wear when he's going to give that speech. And the way that we break this down in the book or in our program is we talk about the TTAP learning model. So TTAP's an acronym. T stands for task. So you've got to make sure that when you're revising, you're practicing the same task. So when you're sitting in an exam, you're not just practicing storing information into your brain. You're actually retrieving it. So you've got to make sure that when you're practicing, you are practicing retrieving information, that is answering past exam questions, whether they are the short answer format or the longer answer format. I know you get to do more of as you progress through your exams, so that you are actually rehearsing what you will be doing in the examination hall. The E stands for environment. You've got to practice the exams in the same environment you're going to sit them. You think of the England penalty takers that always choke under pressure, because it's when they're practicing their penalties on the training ground, the context, the environment just isn't the same as when they're at the end of a extra time in a semi-final of a European Championships final in front of 90,000 people. And of course, you can't always replicate it exactly like for like, but if you understand that's an important factor, you can get closer to it. So will you be sitting at a desk? Will you be sitting in a big examination, room, whatever? Will there be a ticking of a clock? All that minute detail can make every minute you spend revising go a lot further. The other T in TTAP learning is for timing, making sure that if you've got 1 hour exam to sit, that you practice your revision for 1 hour. So you're practicing your endurance, if you like. If each question is going to last about 2 minutes, just give yourself that 2 minutes on each question. So it's making sure, again, you're replicating like for like as much as you can. The A is about activation. What activation level do you need to be at in the exam? So we talk about activation a lot in the book. Are you going to get nervous before the exam? Is it going to be at the end of a long week? So what do you need to do to get yourself to the right activation level? And you've got to try to replicate that when you're doing your revision. So you might want to jump up and down 10 times on the spot before you practice revising, which is also going to be helpful to get the right neurotransmitters into your brain, like dopamine and noradrenaline and BDNF, etc. And the final P is about the physical. So what are you going to be wearing when you're doing your exam? Are you going to be laying on your bed whilst you're doing it? Are you going to be sat upright? You know, all that stuff. Again, it's about replicating what you'll do in the exam. So there's a whole range of things there you can think about. Also, so we have a few ways that we use to explain better revision to people. One is E3 learning. So good learning has the 3 E's: effort, efficiency, and effectiveness. And some of those things are connected to what I just talked about. So you've got to make sure that when you're revising, you're putting in the effort. So you're doing focused practice. And again, in the book, we have a very specific 4-step focused practice framework to make sure that every minute you're spending is actually optimizing your learning. You've got to make sure that you organize your learning well. You've got to make sure that you're practicing the right things. And then we have, you may have heard before about spaced learning, which isn't learning in space. It's about putting gaps between learning different parts of the curriculum, which helps you to practice retrieval. So we have a 20-20 system where we encourage people to break down their learning into 20-minute blocks, or some version of that, which again is going to make sure that every minute you spend learning, you get more efficient and effective learning done. That actually helps you to perform in the exam. There's a whole range of different ideas in the book. And these ideas are not, they're not hypothetically helpful. They are absolutely helpful for people who are revising. We've had data for 10 years now showing that if you use these techniques, you get better exam grades than people that don't use them, because they basically mean every minute you spend revising is more efficient and effective than those people that are not using them. So I've talked quite a lot there, Paul. I don't know if you want to probe into any of the things I said.
Well, I'm just thinking as you're talking, that was just an amazing answer. There's a lot of people, well, they want to get through them quickly because, you know, it's a real impingement on your sort of social life and everything, and it's a really good thing to do to get on in your career. And some people just get stuck on these exams and don't really know what to do. So I do honestly think, you know, this book here, if you're one of those people, it can really help you unlock, you know, why you're not getting through. Sometimes you just get stuck in a rut, and I do think that getting hold of this book and reading the ideas and putting into place these ideas is going to be really helpful for you. I think it's such a comprehensive answer without us sort of really sort of opening up chapters and going into it. I probably would sort of cut it there and just recommend people check out the book to find out more and understand how it can really get you out of that rut, get you thinking differently, and get you through these really, really tough exams.
I think the key thing is you can learn. If you've tried the exams before and you failed, it's not because you can't pass the exams, because the way you've practiced hasn't been quite right. So you can learn to practice in a different way, because our brains are like plasticine. They're designed to change, and they change when you pay attention to things. So you absolutely can pass your exams. It's just about practicing in a different way. Exactly.
That was brilliant. No, that's an excellent answer to the question, Dr. Finn. Thank you. Maybe we could sort of move on to productivity and sort of how we can all do more in the day, how we can focus our attention. Again, I think this is something which everyone watching now is gonna benefit from. So, what are your tips for that productivity and attention?
Yeah, well, in a way, all of the habit mechanic part of the book, so 2/3 of the book, are really about being more productive, because that's the outcome. If you get better at managing your stress and managing your confidence, it just helps you to be more productive. But if we step back from this, I think a really helpful way to think about productivity is there's only 24 hours in a day. That's all you've got. And you can think of every 24-hour period a bit like a barcode. But instead of a black and white barcode, think of a blue and red barcode. And think of the red lines as times in the day, in the 24-hour period, where you're doing things and thinking things that are not helpful for you, actually being at your best and getting done what you need to get done. And think of the blue lines as times in the day where you are doing things and thinking things that are helpful for you. And I suppose a starting goal, if you want to be more efficient and effective with our time, is instead of spending 10 minutes on a 5-minute job, let's get good at spending 5 minutes on a 5-minute job. And then by the end of the day, we're already half an hour up. And I know that when I use these techniques, I'm saving literally hours a day. And if honestly, that's where you can get to with this. So we've got to think of every day like that. Again, if we go back to the why, it's really important to understand why you want to be more productive today, why you want to be more efficient and effective. Well, and it might be, well, I want to make sure that I can get home on time, spend a bit of time with the kids, or maybe I don't have any kids yet, but do something for myself, and then I've got enough time to revise. Why do I want to do that? Well, my exams are important because of these reasons. Why is that important? So again, you can use the FAM story iceberg tool to really map out why you want to be more efficient and effective today. And then once you've worked that out, the way that I think about this, or we teach habit mechanics to think about this, is first of all, it's really helpful if you want to be more productive every day to split the types of jobs you're doing into 2 types of jobs. One is ice cubes, so freezing ice cubes. These are really easy jobs to do, things that are not particularly mentally challenging, the types of jobs that are increasingly becoming automated. And the other type of jobs that we do every day are building ice sculptures. These are things that take real mental focused effort. And in fact, in your revision, you will have a lot of ice sculptures to build, but you'll have a few ice cubes as well, bit of organizing your notes, etc., that type of thing. But if we understand what types of job we've got to do, and we can put them into those lists, that's already really helpful. The second thing that we need to understand is that our brain is a bit like a battery, and it has 3 states, 3 charge states. One is recharge state, which can be sleep, non-sleep recharge. One is medium charge state. That's where we can freeze these ice cubes essentially, where we're doing, but we're not really thinking too much. And the final charge state is high charge. We need to use our high charge state to build the ice sculptures. And in any 24-hour period, we're going to use all 3, or ideally we're going to use all 3 of these charge state levels. I say ideally because many people are not using the high charge state. They're going days and days without using it. And the thing with a high charge state is it's a limited cognitive resource. And I would say, if I break this down into a 24-hour period, a personal example, I need to spend about 12 hours every day, if I'm optimally using my brain states, 12 hours every day in recharge. That includes sleep, things like eating, some forms of exercise, could just be sitting and, watching TV for half an hour, might be playing with your kids or something, could be walking in between meetings. So I think for me, about 12 hours, if I'm going to balance myself throughout the week. Then I've got maybe 7 to 8 hours doing medium charge stuff. That's tasking work outside of work. And then I've only got 4 to 5 hours of high charge in me every day. That's all that I've got. If I don't use my 4 to 5 hours today, I can't do 8 to 10 hours tomorrow. It doesn't work like that because high charge is a scarce cognitive resource. So we've got to make sure that we're working proactively to get the right balance of how we use our brain states. And the third factor to then figure in is activation. So there's a concept we've created called activation. Just to quickly explain activation, it's about how mentally and physically alert you are. So if you think of a dial, starts at 0, 0, goes all the way to 100. If you're at 0, 0 on the activation dial, it means that you're dead, okay? That's the starting point. If you're at 100, it means your heart is beating as quickly as it can. And essentially everything you do today, there's an optimal activation level. So to get to sleep, you don't quite want to get down to 0, 0, but you'll be, I'd probably say I want to start by getting to a 5 and then I'll hopefully drift down to a 1 or a 2. For me to do high charge work, I need to be maybe up at about 60. For me to do non-sleep recharge, I try to get myself down below 20. To do medium charge work, I can do that maybe from a 30 to a 40. So everything you do today has an optimal activation level. And the thing with doing your revision at the end of the day is you're naturally probably going to have a lower activation level. Not everybody, but some people. So you've got to work out how do you get to the right activation level to optimize your revision. So one of my, what I call a super habit, which you learn about in the book, is that every morning now, every workday morning, I go for a run. And I go for a run, one of the reasons is to get my activation level up to a high charge level, so that when I sit at my desk first thing, I can spend that 3-4 hours, sometimes 5 hours, doing my high charge work with a few little breaks in between. So, and then to bring that all together, we've got a tool in the book called the willpower story, which allows you to bring all those ideas together and create a plan for the day, essentially, so that you can use all those core ingredients to supercharge your activation. The best tool we have against a character that, that lives in our brain called Hugh, which is horribly unhelpful emotions, the best tool we have against that is planning, sophisticated, intelligent planning. So what habit mechanics are really good at is more intelligent self-watching, so watching ourselves, noticing the helpful things we're doing and the unhelpful things, and more intelligent planning. And that's what the book shows you to do. So that's the way I would think about that. And of course, if you just read the productivity chapter, it shows you how to pull all that together.
Yeah, that's what I found. I do think I'm very much a planner, but I've never really thought about my levels in the day and when to do things. It was just do these X things today, and actually you get even more out of it when you start to pull all these different things together, rather than just being a bit haphazard about what's the first email you look at, rather than thinking about I'll do that later or I'll do this now. Excellent. Another fantastic answer, Dr. Finn, and again sort of drawing into the depth of information in this book. So really want to say thank you very much for all your time. Loads of great stuff in here. Hopefully we've really engaged people and they want to get hold of it. So perhaps you could just let everyone know, where they can get a copy of your book.
Yeah, I'd suggest going to Amazon. We've got it in paperback, hardback, ebook. There's a lot of things to write down in the book, so I'd recommend getting a physical copy, because then you can write as you go if you like. So yeah, I go to Amazon. This is everything that in this book I do, and it's changed my life, and I can do, I'm certainly healthier and happier than I ever have been. Being at your best is a journey, and this is the toolkit to show you how to do it. So not only will this help you with your exams, it's going to help you with everything you're trying to achieve in your life now and into the distant future. So it's a really good investment. And what I was saying to Paul is I charge at the moment, it's going up all the time, I charge £4,000 a day, and I charge my colleagues out at similar rates, and everything we know is in that book, because we just want to help people to do better. So it's a real bargain. Probably charge more for it, but we're not. So there you go.
Yeah, so get your copy in now before they sell out and the price goes up on the second printing, is probably the message we're getting here. I'll put a link in the comments below so you can see where to get the book from. I do definitely encourage you to check it out. Let us know in the comments what you make of the book, what you make of this interview. If you have any questions, please do add them to the comments, and I'll let Dr. Finn know if there's some questions for him. He hopefully come and respond to them. But yeah, just to close, thank you very much for your time, Dr. Finn. It's been really interesting talking to you, and there's just, my neurons are just, firing just listening to your sort of ideas and suggestions. And I know this is exactly what this book did for me. So do check it out. I think you'll find it helpful, and the price is well worth your investment relative to the time it takes to get through the exams or to just get better at your job. So yeah, check it out. Thank you all very much for listening.